Hello everyone, welcome back, and I'm so glad that you have completed the basics of n8n. Now we are gonna transit into learning about those individual nodes which we are gonna use the most in individual workflows, and these are quite the most popular ones out there and probably the most used ones, of course. And yeah, that's how this next part is gonna go. So let's start and let's directly dive into it. Let's start off with the module 7 now. This is gonna be about the Webhook node. What is a webhook? A webhook is like a doorbell for your workflow. It rings when the data arrives. This is a very simple analogy to understand something which is very complex. So for example, let's say you are sitting here in your home and somebody comes up at your door and they ring a bell. What happens in your head? What happens is there's a kind of a response that your brain creates that, okay, now I have to go to the door, open the door and let the person in. Of course, that's a response. So what you understand by this analogy is this doorbell is the webhook. The person who's standing outside is the external tool. And something happening in our brain is kind of the triggering of the response. And us going to the door and opening the door is the response itself. So that is how webhook functions. Webhook is divided into these factors. Like the very first thing is the Webhook node in n8n. It has some URLs and everything, which is kind of a redirect URL. Which basically means that if some action happens on an external tool, this webhook would be triggered immediately, right? And the moment this trigger happens, what was the trigger being used for? Trigger was being used for starting the workflows. So the moment that this webhook is triggered by any action in the external app, this workflow to which the trigger was connected or the webhook was connected, the entire workflow would start executing itself. Now let's go to n8n cloud itself and see how the webhook node looks. So here we are on the n8n interface. Let's start off. Let's create a workflow and we'll click on plus and we'll type webhook. And you would see this particular node appears, which is called as webhook, starts the workflow when a webhook is called. Okay, so that's it. So this is how the webhook node looks like. We have different kind of URLs very first. At the first, like one is test URL and second one is production URL. You already know the difference. Test URL are the ones when you are manually trying to test out these events, right? So they are listening for test events, and production URL is when you have activated the workflow. Then this URL would be used in the place of the redirect URLs in any API documentations. Then HTTP requests of get path authentication, respond immediately. All of these factors, let's dive into it one by one. So HTTP method is get, delete, head, patch, post, all of these. You would majorly be using get in this, at least for me right now till date I have used only get. But of course, if there is any API documentation which defines that the HTTP method needs to be something different, you can totally choose that here. Then what is the path? Path is basically the end portion of this webhook. You need not to keep it this way. Let's say we can do it as Priyank's webhook. That's it. We can do it like that. Let's not Priyank webhook. Let's keep it like that. Let's keep dash, no apostrophe and something, because at the end of the day it's a URL, so we'll take care of that. Webhook 1 2 3 4. That's it. So the moment that we change the path here, the production URL also gets changed. Right. Now authentication. What is authentication? It's more like the way that you connected your Google Sheet to Google account, which was using OAuth. This is basically basic auth, header auth, and JWT auth. You don't need to know what this is, and you don't need to set it up for Webhook, because at the end of the day, you're doing it on a private space, on a private cloud, and these are still normal functioning. If you want to set up some higher end authentication, it's gonna be in the advanced level courses. So yeah, we talk about it there. But yeah, right now that's not much needed. But still, if you feel like you want to set up the authentication before the webhook can be accessed by any external tool, it will, just to be honest, will complicate the task. But if you still want to do it, you can look into the API documentations of how to do it, and yeah, you would get the answer to that. Now respond, this is very important, and we need to set this up whenever we are setting up a webhook node. One is immediately. Now immediately is used much better when we are triggering the workflows, and that's it, right? We are not responding back to the webhook. In some cases, we need the webhooks to be triggered when a chat is coming, and then the webhook functions, and then you are responding to the chat on a chatbot or any external website that you have created and attach that webhook to. But yeah, in this case, we are not doing that. What we are doing is we are just using the webhook to trigger a workflow. Like for example, a message came in, and it was more like a lead response, and you just want to feed that lead response to your CRM. So that's something that you can do using immediate response, right? You just trigger the entire workflow. Then when last node finishes, it returns the data of last executed node. So let's say you have created an entire workflow, and in the end, you have kind of kept an AI agent which generates a response to anything. Right, so a webhook is connected to an AI agent. AI agent has the capability to reply to people. Right, so the moment that the AI agent would generate a reply, then this webhook would be triggered and give a response back to that particular place where the original external tool was and where the webhook trigger kind of came from. So yeah, now hopping on to the using respond to webhook node, I'll just quickly show you what that means. Let's say this webhook was being triggered by any external chat. Now I've put in an AI agent here, okay, and this AI agent is being triggered by this particular webhook, and at the end of this, what I need is I need to respond back to the webhook, and that's it. So yeah, so this node respond to webhook is basically whenever a webhook receives an information, it would be processed using an AI agent or any such tool or any complete workflow, and at the end we can structure or respond to that particular webhook from wherever it came from this particular thing, right? From this particular node respond to webhook. What are the options that we can respond with? Of course, all incoming items, all the things which are coming in the previous input or the output of the previous node, that can be sent directly as a response. Then binary files are of course the data files. Let's say you have downloaded something, but now let's say somebody came to your website chat agent, and it's more like a course website. Okay, and you are asking for a video testimonial that, okay, send this video testimonial to me. So in that case, we can keep the binary file as a response, because then in the chat, the webhook would be able to send a video using this respond to webhook node. So yeah, so binary file can be used in that cases. Then first incoming item, of course, if there are a lot of JSON items which are coming in, let's say 15 items are being returned in a single instance, then the first one would be responded using this. JSON respond with a custom JSON body. That's quite good if you want to customize the response that you want to put forth. So yeah, JWT token is basically you respond back with a JSON web token, and this is kind of used in authentication workflows when you have to respond back with the credential. So it's generally divided between the header, the payload, and the signature, and that complete thing is like a token that you need to send to the client in order to confirm that this information was not tampered with. And of course, we can dive deep into this in the advanced part of the courses. But yeah, for now, you don't really need this up until you are developing some authentication level workflows and all. But yeah, you just need to know that this exists, and yeah, you can explore this more further on. We'd of course post about this. You can explore this on ChatGPT, YouTube, wherever you want. So yeah. No data, of course, whenever you want to respond back with an empty body. Redirect is when you want to respond back with a redirect URL. So for example, you want to, the moment that they have put in an information, now you want to redirect them to a different web page all in all. Right, so they have submitted a form, the form is submitted, now you want to redirect it to a different website or a thank you page, let's say for example, that you can do using this. Right, so text is of course you respond back with a simple text body. You can say, yeah, your information received, something like that, and yeah, that's all. You would be able to respond back with this text. So now streaming is basically returns data real time from streaming enabled nodes. Okay, so the difference between immediately and the other options and streaming is basically that whenever we are executing a webhook, the webhook always starts or get triggers when the data packet of the entire information which is being passed on from an external tool is completed. So let's say it's a mailbox thing. Somebody typed an entire mail and then posted into the mailbox. Then you receive the mail, and then the webhook, or kind of you read the mail, that is where the webhook gets triggered. Okay, but in streaming case, what happens is the moment that the other person starts typing one thing, let's say you have created a form and people have started typing their name like PRIYANK. The moment that they start typing P, this streaming would start returning or getting or fetching the data from the webhook. So it's like from the very first instance, not when they have completed the entire name and then put a send button. Right, so that is the power of streaming. Like in those live forms and some nodes which are streaming enabled, you can totally use this particular webhook. So yeah, coming back to our PPT, number one, how it works is you get your unique URL, and it generates a unique URL webhook for your workflow. Basically the test URL and the production URL, you'll have to copy those production URL and paste it into the external tool in order to redirect it to this particular webhook. Then external app sends data, of course. When an event occurs, form submission, payment, etc., data is sent to your URL. So for example, let's say you have an e-commerce website or you have a course and that course is paid. And the moment that somebody purchases that course, you want the information to be immediately feed it into a CRM or any particular email automation that you have created on a different tool, let's say Smart Lead. So you'll create a webhook which will get that information, and then it would trigger a workflow which at the end of it would send the information to Smart Leads or to any such tool. Right. So yeah, so that's the kind of way, another way you can use Webhook. Right. So workflow triggers instantly, your n8n workflow execute immediately with the received data. So yeah, it's quite amazing when you are creating chatbots, form submissions, payments, CRM integrations. It would be used in a lot of places, right? Where you want immediate triggers or immediate responses to be generated from an external tool or something. So yeah, external app goes to the webhook, comes back to the n8n workflow. I know that now you totally understand what that is. A couple of real world examples. You receive lead form data. I've already talked about a couple, but yeah, let's go on with this. Receive lead data from forms. Instantly capture lead information when someone submits your contact. Of course, capture Stripe payment details the moment that somebody has paid, right? The instant that I told. So that's another example. Booking notification. Oh, this is one of the best things, right? So people have these Calendly calendars and all that they have created. And sometimes what they need is the moment that some information is being put in or a meeting is being booked, what they want is they get a WhatsApp message or a Telegram message to be notified that, okay, this meeting has been booked, right? Because let's be honest, nobody opens our calendar every second to check that whether or not a meeting is being booked. So in those cases, those immediate trigger cases, Webhook can be used, where the external app is of course the Calendly calendar or any such tool that you're using, and n8n would be the one where the Webhook would be hosted and you would be sending a Telegram message. So basically you're generating an entire workflow where you have structured everything like name, reason of booking, channel of booking, what do you want to talk about, all these things, and then you have sent this data to Telegram like in a message format. So yeah, you can get booking notifications immediately. So another great use case of. So this was about the information of Webhook. Let me show you a live example of Webhook itself as to how that data looks, how that functions and everything, because that's the real exciting part. We are here on one of the workflows that I have created. What this workflow does is kind of, it's a LinkedIn auto outreach connection request sender. And I don't know, but by the time maybe you would be watching this, the video of this particular entire workflow would already be there in the community on YouTube. You totally explore it, totally find it out. Just let me know how it feels and works like. But yeah, here what you will see is there is a Webhook node, and I want to show you how this Webhook functions, what happens when this Webhook is triggered, and how this basically is triggered at the end of the day. So what this Webhook is it's a messaging Webhook, which basically means that whenever I receive a message on LinkedIn, this Webhook would be triggered. But always remember that this messaging Webhook is about getting new messages or the first message from any new person. So I went to my own LinkedIn chat and I saw that Vaibhav has sent me a text about the n8n masterclass that I took for the LAN community on Monday at 9:26 p.m. So I went back to my executions. Now, of course, you wouldn't be able to test out Webhooks live up until it's an active workflow. But yeah, I went to executions, went to August 18, 9:26:33. The moment that Vaibhav has texted me, this Webhook was triggered. So now let me show you what kind of data this Webhook is exactly getting from LinkedIn and how you can leverage it. This is how the schema view looks, which is the headers. Now headers would of course contain the host, accepting encoding, accept language, n8n cloud as to where this Webhook is coming to. All those technical information, you really don't need to dive deep into that. Body is what we are mainly concerned about. And we'll switch to table view to see the entire body and to understand how we can use this and how we can leverage this. So we are at the body tag here, and the body part of table, what you can see is we'll receive all these information that attendee name is Vaibhav Raj, attendee profile URL is this, then sender and everything, all this information. And here was the body, of course, that hey Priyank just went through your entire LAN training on n8n, and you can see this was the very first message that I got. So yeah. So this is how I've received the content of the Webhook. So this was it about the Webhook, the body part, and you saw that what kind of payload the Webhook will get you. And now you can of course take this to the code node, set node, parse it into different items, then give it to the AI agent to generate a response, then respond back to the webhook. That's a whole workflow in itself. We'll create this in depth, maybe in the advanced level classes, maybe in the future classes, or maybe when we'll be discussing the code node, right? I'd show you exactly how we can use code node to actually differently parse this. So this was it about Webhook Node. You saw some of the real world examples. You saw the n8n functioning of the payload, Webhook Node, and everything. If you still have any questions left, please feel free to reach out to me anytime with any such questions. And yeah, start using Webhook. And I would love to see what kind of workflows and where you put in Webhook and what you create. Ciao.